Hello and welcome back to Global English Podcast, the place where we break down English for you. I'm your host, Jordan.
And I'm Taylor. It's great to be back.
Today, we've got a deep dive that is, I think, for every single person out there who's ever felt that terrible frustration.
Mm-hmm.
You know the feeling. You listen to English all the time in the car while you're cooking. You're getting so much input.
Right.
But then the moment you have to actually speak in a real conversation,
It just vanishes.
it's gone. The words disappear. It feels like this huge gap between what you understand
Yeah.
and what you can actually say.
It's the classic challenge in language learning, bridging that gap between passive input and active output. And that's exactly what we're tackling today.
We're going to look at some amazing sources,
Yeah.
real, hard data from a controlled study, plus insights from expert teachers to show you how podcasts can be that bridge.
Yeah, and we're going to get into a specific technique that many experts call a real game changer. It sounds a little silly at first, I'll admit.
Oh, I'm intrigued now. And we also have a little pop quiz for you later on, right?
We do. It's a fun one about culture.
It's about that tiny difference in how an American and a British person might answer the simple question, how are you?
And getting it wrong can be a little awkward.
Okay, I can't wait. But before we get into all of that, you know what to do. If you're serious about taking your English speaking to the next level, please take a second right now to subscribe to Global English Podcast and give this deep dive a like.
It really helps us out.
It does. Okay, so Taylor, let's start with the proof, the hard evidence. We hear the term game changer all the time, but is there actual research that backs this up for podcast?
There is, and that's our foundation for today. We're looking at a quasi-experimental study from Sultan Ageng Islamic University.
Okay, so what does quasi-experimental mean?
It's basically the gold standard for this kind of research. They took 60 students, all learning English, and split them into two groups.
Right, 30 in each group.
Exactly. One group, the control group, just kept learning the usual way, textbooks, standard classroom stuff.
The conventional method.
Mm-hmm. But the other group, the experimental group, they started using podcasts as a core part of their learning.
Okay, so here's the big question. Did it actually work? Did it just make their listening a little better, which you'd kind of expect, or did it translate into them actually speaking better?
The results were, they were honestly pretty staggering. The podcast group saw huge improvements across the board.
Across the board, so in every area they measured.
Every single one. It wasn't just a small bump. It was a really fundamental shift in their abilities compared to the other group.
Wow. Okay, let's get into the weeds then. Give me the numbers. Let's start with fluency, because that's what everyone wants, right? The ability to just speak smoothly.
Absolutely. So for fluency, the experimental group, the podcast users, their average score went from a 5.5
Okay.
all the way up to a 7.2.
Whoa, wait, that a 1.7-point jump? That sounds huge.
It is massive in this kind of scoring system. Now, for comparison, the control group.
The textbook group.
Yeah. They did improve, but only a little. They went from 5.4 to just 6.0.
So the podcast group's improvement was, what, almost 3 times bigger?
Pretty much. And the researchers calculated something called an effect size to show how significant this was. For fluency, it was a D score of 1.2, which is considered very, very high. It means the podcasts had a powerful, real-world impact.
Okay, so that's fluency. What about pronunciation? That feels like one of the hardest things to fix on your own.
This is where the results were even more dramatic, actually.
Really?
The podcast group's pronunciation score started at 5.3, and it shot up to 7.5.
Over 2 full points. That's incredible. How is that even possible just from listening?
It's all about exposure to authentic models, and the effect size here was even higher, D equals 1.4. This is what we mean by a strong empirical foundation. It shows that hearing and mimicking native speech patterns is it's incredibly effective.
So they're speaking more smoothly, and their pronunciation is clearer. But were they speaking correctly? What about accuracy? Grammar and all that?
They improved there, too. The effect size was a bit more moderate, a D score of 0.9, but still a really significant improvement over the control group.
So just hearing correct English being spoken helps your own grammar get better, even without, memorizing rules.
That's what the data suggests. It reinforces those correct structures implicitly.
And the last one was a vocabulary range, right?
Yep. And again, a big jump from 5.2 up to 7.4 for the podcast group.
While the other group kind of stalled out at 6.0.
Exactly. It just proves that hearing language in lots of different authentic context, news, stories, interviews, it expands your active vocabulary way beyond what a textbook can do.
Okay, so the evidence is pretty undeniable. Podcasts aren't just a fun supplement. They're a core engine for improvement in all four areas.
That's the takeaway. Fluency, pronunciation, accuracy, and vocabulary. They all get a major boost.
So now that we know they work, let's break down what those four things actually are. Because I think for a lot of learners, words like fluency and accuracy can get a little blurry.
They can, for sure. It's helpful to think of them as the four pillars of a house. You need all of them for the structure to be strong.
I like that. A
Well,
house. Okay, so let's start with the first pillar, the one everyone is chasing. Fluency.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people, when they hear fluency, they just think speed. Am I right? Like you have to talk really fast.
That is the number one misconception. And it's understandable because fast speakers often sound fluent to us. But the real definition of fluency is about speaking smoothly and naturally.
So not stopping and starting all the time.
Exactly. It's about the flow. Speaking without too many, awkward pauses or constantly saying and while you search for a word.
So you can actually speak quite slowly, but if it's smooth and connected, that's still fluent.
Precisely. We can use an analogy here. Think of fluency like driving a car on a highway. The goal isn't to go at the fastest possible speed. The goal is to keep a smooth, steady pace without slamming on the brakes or stalling the engine. A slow, smooth drive is much better than a fast, jerky one.
That makes so much sense. So it's about the momentum of the conversation, not the speed of the words.
You've got it. It's about making language production feel more automatic, so you're not mentally translating every single word before you say it.
It's a mental shift.
Yeah.
I remember one source mentioned a traveler who just decided to stop overthinking
Yeah.
and just talk. And they said suddenly everything felt smooth.
That's the moment. That's the breakthrough into fluency. It's less about speed and more about mental liberation.
Okay, so let's really dig into this word, fluency. You've given a great definition. Can you give me some examples of how it's used, like in different contexts?
Absolutely. So for a formal example, you might hear something in a business report like, the committee noted her increasing fluency in the official reports.
Okay, very formal. What about a more casual, everyday example?
Casually, you might say to a friend, he speaks French with surprising fluency for only 2 years of study.
Right, that's one I could see myself using. Now, give me a funny or weird one.
Chuckles. Okay, a weird one. You could joke the robot claimed mechanical fluency when ordering coffee, but it's still short-circuited.
I like that. What about a historical context?
Historically, you could say, his fluency in Latin opened doors to Renaissance scholarship.
Nice. And finally, a more philosophical take on it.
Philosophically, you might argue that fluency is less about language and more about mental liberation from self-censorship.
Wow, that's deep. Okay, so that's fluency in action. What about words that often go with it? Collocations.
Good question. The most common goal is achieving fluency. That's what we all want.
Right.
The action itself is speaking fluently. If you don't have it, you might be lacking fluency.
And our goal with podcasts is improving fluency.
Exactly. And a high-level goal might be to reach near fluency. The key nuance here is that it always suggests quality and ease, not just how many words you can say per minute.
That's such a clear breakdown. Okay, pillar 2, accuracy. If fluency is the smooth flow, what's accuracy? Is it just about perfect grammar?
It's mostly about grammar, but it's a bit broader. Accuracy is about using the language correctly. So yes, that includes grammar and verb tenses, but also syntax, which is just a fancy word for word order, and using the right forms of words, like plurals.
So if I say, she go to the party yesterday, my fluency might be fine, but my accuracy is low.
Perfect example. The message gets across, but the structure is wrong.
You used the house analogy before. If the words are the bricks, accuracy is like the mortar that holds them together correctly, making sure the wall is straight.
That's a fantastic analogy, and it shows how it's different from fluency. You can be a very fast bricklayer, very fluent, but if your mortar is bad and your lines are crooked, your communication is weak.
And a lot of learners, especially advanced ones, they kind of get stuck with bad habits, right? They prioritize fluency so much that they just keep making the same accuracy mistakes over and over.
That's a real phenomenon called fossilized errors. The mistakes become permanent because they were never corrected. But the study showed that listening to podcasts, which are full of accurate language, helps correct those errors implicitly.
Okay, let's do the deep dive on accuracy. Let's start with a formal example.
Formally, you'd see it in a technical field. The technical brief required absolute accuracy in all measurements.
Makes sense. Casual.
Casually, I focused on accuracy when giving them directions so they wouldn't get lost.
Right. You want to be correct in that situation. Give me the weird one.
Chuckles. How about, The fortune teller guaranteed 100% accuracy in predicting lunch menus.
Not a very useful skill, but okay. Historically?
You could say. The accuracy of ancient maps is remarkable considering the tools available.
True. And the philosophical one?
A good philosophical question would be, does perfect linguistic accuracy always guarantee truthful communication?
Ooh, I like that. No, it definitely doesn't. So what are the common collocations for accuracy?
We often talk about grammatical accuracy. That's the big one. The goal is to have high accuracy or to increase accuracy.
And before you submit something important, you would check for accuracy.
Exactly. And in a professional setting, you'd focus on maintaining accuracy. The important nuance here is that accuracy is critical in writing and exams, but in casual conversation, comprehension often matters more. Don't let the fear of a small mistake stop you from speaking.
That is great advice. Okay, pillar 3. This is a big one. Pronunciation. How is this different from having an accent?
This is such a crucial distinction. Pronunciation is the mechanics of speech. It's about how you form the individual sounds, the vowels and consonants. It's about word stress-like, saying pro-enunciation, not pronunciation, and it's about rhythm.
So it's the technical side of making sounds.
Precisely. To go back to an analogy, if language is music, pronunciation is hitting all the right notes cleanly.
So then, what's an accent?
The accent is the style of music. It's the genre. You can play a song on a classical guitar or an electric guitar. Both can have perfect notes, pronunciation, but they'll sound very different accents.
So I can have clear, correct pronunciation with an American accent, a British accent, or even my own native accent.
Exactly. The goal for most learners should be clear pronunciation, so people can understand you easily. The accent is a stylistic choice.
And podcasts are so good for this because you're just constantly hearing the correct model.
Yeah. It ties into a linguistic idea called the noticing hypothesis. It basically says that to improve, you first have to notice the gap between how you sound and how a native speaker sounds. Podcasts give you that native model on repeat.
Let's do the M2 protocol for pronunciation.
Let's do it. Formal example. The debate moderator emphasized the importance of clear pronunciation to ensure all parties were understood.
Okay. Casual.
His pronunciation of the French restaurant name was terrible, but we got seated anyway.
I've been there. Funny or weird example?
The parrot learned excellent pronunciation, but only used it to insult strangers.
That's a very talented, very rude parrot. Historical example.
Changes in vowel pronunciation define the great vowel shift in English history.
Ah, classic for the language nerds. And philosophical.
How about this? Pronunciation is the body language of sound.
Ooh, I like that a lot. It carries so much meaning beyond just the words. What are the key collocations?
Well, the main goal is to improve pronunciation or get the correct pronunciation.
And the result we want is clear pronunciation.
Right. Some people aim for native pronunciation, but the most important thing is simply practicing pronunciation. A key nuance is that this is often the first thing a listener notices, so being confident here can make a huge first impression.
So true. Okay, the fourth and final pillar. Vocabulary range. What does that word range really add? Isn't it just about knowing a lot of words?
Range is the key word there. It's not just about the size of your vocabulary. It's about the variety of words you can use, and crucially, your ability to use the appropriate word for the right situation.
So being able to switch between formal and informal language.
Exactly, or technical language versus slang. It's about having the right tool for the job.
Can you give me an analogy for that?
Sure. Think of it like a spice rack in your kitchen. Having a limited vocabulary is like only having salt and pepper. You can make food, but it's basic. Having a wide vocabulary range is like having a full spice rack. You have paprika, cumin, oregano, cinnamon. You can add flavor and precision to any dish or any conversation perfectly.
I love that. You can season the conversation, and podcasts help with this because they expose you to so many different contexts.
Yes, you hear words used in news reports and casual chats and academic discussions. It builds your spice rack far more effectively than a textbook list.
Let's run vocabulary range through the examples.
You got it. Formal. Her extensive vocabulary range was evident in her detailed thesis defense.
Casual.
He always struggles with slang. He needs to expand his vocabulary range.
The funny one.
My pet goldfish has a surprisingly limited vocabulary range.
I would hope so. Historical.
Shakespeare massively expanded the English vocabulary range by inventing hundreds of new words.
A true master.
Yeah.
And the philosophical one.
You could say a person's vocabulary range measures the boundaries of their expressive universe.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Okay, common phrases.
We often talk about having a wide vocabulary range or, on the other hand, a limited vocabulary range.
The goal for all our listeners is expanding their vocabulary range.
For sure. To have an effective vocabulary range, and we are specifically focused on your speaking vocabulary range. The key nuance here is that a wide range is what allows you to express nuance, those subtle shades of meaning that define advanced communication.
Okay, so that's the what. We know what we're trying to improve. Now let's talk about the why, the science behind it. You mentioned two big theories.
That's right. The success of this whole podcast method is really explained by two key ideas in linguistics: Krashen's input hypothesis and Swain's output hypothesis.
Input and output, filling the tank and driving the car.
That's the perfect summary. Let's start with Krashen's input hypothesis. This is how we fill the tank. It's built on a famous principle called I+1.
Right, I+1. I've heard this a lot. Break it down for us in simple terms. What does it mean?
Okay, so I represents your current level of English. It's what you already know and understand. The +1 is the new stuff. It's language that is just a little bit more advanced than your current level. Krashen argued that for us to learn, we need to receive input that is I+1.
So it has to be understandable, but still a little challenging.
Exactly. If the input is I+0 stuff you already know, you get bored and you don't learn. If it's I+10, way too difficult, you get overwhelmed and frustrated and you also don't learn.
It's the Goldilocks principle. Not
Yeah.
too easy, not too hard, but just right.
Precisely. We can use a weightlifting analogy. If you go to the gym and only lift weights that are super easy for you, your muscles won't grow. But if you try to lift something that's way too heavy, you'll just injure yourself. You need a weight that is just challenging enough to stimulate growth. That's I+1.
And this is why just turning on a random movie for native speakers might not work for a B1 learner. It's too much. It's I+10.
Often, yes. The language is too fast, the slang is too complex. That's why podcasts designed for learners are so powerful. They control the language and the speed to make sure the content is comprehensible, to make sure it hits that I+1 sweet spot.
Something like News in Slow English is a perfect example of this.
A perfect example. It takes complex topics and delivers them in a way that is challenging but understandable. That is high-quality, comprehensible input.
Okay, so that's how we fill the tank. But that's not enough, right? That brings us to the second theory.
Right. Filling the tank is essential, but you don't learn to drive a car just by reading the manual and putting gas in it. You have to actually drive. And that's Swain's output hypothesis.
So I have to actually try to speak, even if I make mistakes.
You have to. Swain argued that it's the act of producing language, of trying to speak or write, that forces your brain to really process the rules.
How does that work? What happens in my brain when I try to speak?
When you just listen, you can be passive. But when you try to form a sentence yourself, you're forced to actively engage. You have to recall vocabulary, apply grammar rules, and structure your thoughts.
And that's when you notice what you don't know.
Exactly. You have a notice the gap moment. You think, wait, how do I say that in the past tense? Or what preposition do I use here? That moment of struggle is where the deep learning happens. It forces you to find the answer and strengthens that neural pathway.
So input is getting the information, but output is turning that information into a skill.
Perfect. It's the difference between knowing the theory of swimming and actually being able to swim. You have to get in the water. Speaking is the practice that makes the knowledge usable.
And this is why just listening to podcasts, even for hours, isn't the whole solution. You have to use the podcast as a prompt.
A stimulating medium. You listen to a segment and then you pause and try to summarize it out loud. Or you do the shadowing technique we'll talk about later. You have to combine the input with the output. That's the magic formula.
Input plus output. Okay, that makes total sense. So once a learner is convinced, they're ready to start. But then they face a big choice.
A very big choice.
American English or British English? It feels like a really crucial decision.
It is. I'd say the word crucial is exactly right here. It's not just important, it's more than that.
What's the extra weight that crucial carries? How is it stronger than important?
Crucial means it's decisive. It's essential for the final outcome. An important detail might be helpful, but a crucial detail means that if you get it wrong, the whole thing could fail.
So choosing your accent model is crucial because if you mix and match, you'll just confuse your brain and your mouth muscles.
Exactly. It will undermine your whole practice. Consistency is crucial for building muscle memory and pronunciation.
Okay, let's explore the word crucial. A formal example.
Formally, obtaining the correct visa was a crucial step in the immigration process. Without it, everything stops.
Right. a casual one.
It's crucial that you remember to buy milk on the way home. Maybe not life or death, but very important for a happy evening.
Definitely. A funny or weird one.
The alien explained that wearing a tinfoil hat was crucial for blocking the government's mind control rays.
Crucial for them, I guess. Historical.
The cracking of the Enigma code was crucial to the Allied victory in World War II.
Absolutely decisive. And a philosophical one.
Many philosophers believe that self-reflection is crucial for living a meaningful life.
Okay, let's do a little role play. Let's say we're two travelers planning a difficult mountain hike.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm looking at the map. We have two paths to the summit.
I think we should take the one on the left. It looks shorter.
Shorter, maybe, but look at the weather report. The wind picks up on that side after noon.
Oh, is that a big deal?
It's more than a big deal. It's crucial. If we get caught in those high winds, it's incredibly dangerous. It's a crucial factor we can't ignore.
Okay, you've convinced me. The safer route it is.
Good choice.
So, applying that to our choice, what are the factors that make someone choose American English?
The biggest factor is global reach. Thanks to Hollywood, American music, and tech, American English is incredibly widespread and understood almost everywhere.
And it's sometimes seen as a bit easier for beginners, right?
It is, largely because of its pronunciation. It's a rhotic accent, which means the R sound is pronounced clearly wherever it appears, like in car or hard. It's phonetically consistent.
And for British English, who should be choosing that model?
British English is the obvious choice if you plan to live, work, or study in the UK. It's also very valuable in many Commonwealth countries and for certain academic fields.
But in the real world, most of our listeners will be talking to other non-natal speakers.
Which brings us to the most modern perspective on this. The idea that English is now a global lingua franca.
Let's break that term down. Lingua franca. What does that actually mean?
A lingua franca is a common language that's used by people who have different native languages. It's a bridge language. The global part just emphasizes that today, English is that bridge almost everywhere on the planet.
So it's a tool for communication, not a cultural identity you have to adopt perfectly.
Exactly, and that's so freeing for a learner. It means your goal doesn't have to be sounding perfectly American or perfectly British. Your goal is clarity and connection. Your own accent is part of your identity, and as long as your pronunciation is clear, it's perfectly valid within the global lingua franca.
You can't just learn the words without learning the culture behind them.
You can't. The two are completely intertwined. And that brings us back to our pop quiz question, the how are you test.
Okay, so let's break it down. How does an American typically respond, and what does it say about the culture?
American culture often values positivity, energy, and a sort of outgoing optimism. So the expected social response to how are you is something upbeat.
Like, great, or doing good.
Exactly. It's not a literal question about your well-being. It's a social greeting, a ritual, and the expected response is a positive one.
And what about the British response?
The British communication style is often more, well, it's more reserved. It tends to be ironic, understated, and often self-deprecating.
Okay, self-deprecating. Does that just mean being negative about yourself, or is it more of a kind of humor?
It's definitely more about humor and modesty. Self-deprecating means making lighthearted jokes about yourself or downplaying your own achievements. It's a way to avoid seeming arrogant or making a fuss.
So a British person might answer, how are you, with something like, not too bad, or surviving.
Precisely. Or can't complain, which ironically is often said right before they complain about something. It's a form of social bonding through shared, mild pessimism. It's not a genuine sign of misery.
It's just a different cultural script. So this self-deprecating style is linked to being understated. What does that mean exactly?
Understated means you present things subtly, without emphasis. You downplay the importance of things. It's the opposite of being dramatic.
So if a British person wins an Olympic gold medal, their understated response might be,
Yeah, it went all right. Pleased with the result. They're intentionally minimizing a massive achievement to show modesty. In British culture, that's often seen as a sign of class and sophistication.
whereas in American culture, that same response might be seen as unenthusiastic or even rude.
It could be, yeah. The cultural expectation is different. You're expected to show your excitement. This is the kind of cultural nuance that's so important to learn.
Okay, let's stop on that word, nuance. How is it different from just a small detail?
That's a great question. A detail is just a fact. Nuance is a subtle shade of meaning, feeling, or sound. It's the delicate difference that can completely change the interpretation. Understanding nuance is what separates an intermediate speaker from an advanced one.
It's about reading between the lines.
It is. It's about understanding that not bad can actually mean very good in an understated culture. It's about picking up on the subtle differences in pronunciation that tell you where a person is from.
Speaking of pronunciation, let's talk about some of those specific nuanced differences between AE and BE. The letter R is the big one.
It is. As we said, American English is rhotic. The R is hard and strong. Car, computer, water. You hear it every time.
Mm-hmm.
But much of British English, especially the standard accent, is non-rhotic. The R is softer or disappears completely, especially at the end of a word. So you get ka, computer, water.
And the letter T is another famous one.
Yes, the bottle of water test. In American English, that T sound in the middle of words often becomes a flap T, which sounds a lot like a D. So you hear bottle of water.
But in British English,
The T stays a crisp, clear T, bottle of water. It's a small mechanical difference that makes a huge impact on the overall sound of the accent.
so these are the kinds of things you really have to listen for and practice with shadowing.
Absolutely. And the same goes for vocabulary. We mentioned the big one, pants. In America, there are trousers. In the UK,
Their underwear,
yeah,
a crucial difference.
a very crucial difference. And there are so many others. Garbage in the US is rubbish in the UK. A diaper is a nappy. Candy is sweets. You're not just choosing an accent, you're choosing a whole set of daily vocabulary.
Okay, this is so useful. We have the proof, the theory, and the cultural context. Now, let's get to the master techniques. How do we actually practice this stuff by ourselves?
This is where we talk about the most powerful tool for solo practice, the shadowing technique.
But before we get to the technique itself, let's talk about the goal. The goal is to reinforce what we're learning. What does that word really mean?
To reinforce something means to strengthen it, to make it more solid. When you're learning, you're building new connections in your brain. Reinforcement is the process of practicing in a way that makes those connections stronger and more permanent.
So it's not just about repeating something once, it's about making it stick.
Exactly. If you just see a new word once, you'll probably forget it. But if you see it, hear it, say it, and write it, you're using multiple pathways to reinforce that memory. You're making it stronger from different angles.
Okay, so with that goal in mind reinforcement, let's break down shadowing. It sounds so simple. You just repeat what you hear. But why is it such a game changer?
It seems simple, but it's incredibly powerful for your brain. It's a game changer because it completely alters the way you practice.
A game changer isn't just a small improvement, right? It's a radical shift.
It is. It's something that changes the rules of the game. For language learners, solitary practice used to be about flashcards and grammar drills. Shadowing was a game changer because it introduced a way to practice pronunciation, rhythm, and fluency all at the same time by yourself. It directly connects your ears to your mouth, bypassing the slow, analytical part of your brain.
It forces you to stop translating in your head.
Precisely. You don't have time to think. You just have to listen and repeat. It trains your mouth to make the sounds automatically.
Okay, so let's get super practical. If I want to start shadowing with a podcast, what are the exact steps? How do we do it right so I'm actually reinforcing good habits, not bad ones?
There's a 5-step process that experts recommend. Step 1 is initial passive listening.
So just listen first, don't speak.
Right. Listen to the short clip you've chosen, maybe 30 seconds a few times without trying to say anything. Your only job is to understand the meaning and get a feel for the rhythm and intonation, the music of the speech.
Okay, so I've listened a few times. What's step 2?
Step 2 is scaffolding via transcription. This is non-negotiable. You absolutely must have the transcript.
Why is the text so important?
Because your ears can lie to you, especially with a foreign language. The transcript shows you what the words actually are. It helps you see connected speech, like how going to becomes gonna. Reading while you listen for a second time reinforces the connection between the sound and the text.
Eyes and ears working together. Okay, step 3.
Speed control optimization. This is crucial. If the speaker is too fast, you need to slow the audio down. Most podcast apps let you play at 75% speed.
And that's to avoid practicing mistakes, right?
Exactly. If you try to shadow at full speed and you can't keep up, you'll just be mumbling and reinforcing bad pronunciation. Slow it down, get it right, and then gradually speed it up.
Makes sense. Step 4.
Intention-based repetition. Don't just mindlessly parrot the words. Have a focus for each repetition.
What do you mean by a focus?
Maybe the first time you focus only on matching the rhythm and intonation, the melody. The next time you focus on a specific difficult sound, like the sound. The next time you focus on linking words together smoothly. Be intentional.
Okay, I like that. And the final step.
Use short segments. Don't try to shadow a whole 10-minute podcast. Pick a short, practical chunk, like someone ordering coffee or checking out of a hotel. Repeat that same 30-second clip 10 or 15 times until it feels completely natural. It's about quality, not quantity.
That is an amazing detailed guide, and it really highlights the difference between passive listening, like when you're doing chores, and active listening.
They are two different things. Passive background listening is good for getting your ear used to the language, but it's not enough to improve your speaking. For that, you need active engagement.
Which means you have to stop multitasking.
You have to. You need to pause the podcast and ask yourself, what was the main point here? And then you try to say it out loud in your own words. That's active. That's output.
And what about new vocabulary you hear?
You have to write it down. The physical act of writing helps move it from your short-term to your long-term memory. If you just hear it, it will probably disappear.
Now, another tool for solo practice is AI. How can learners use something like ChatGPT to get better at speaking?
AI is the perfect, non-judgmental practice partner. You can ask it to role play with you. You can say, you are the interviewer and I am the job candidate. Ask me questions. And then you can speak your answers out loud.
And it can give you feedback, right?
Yes. You can type your spoken answer and ask it, how can I say this more naturally? Or correct my grammar. It helps you refine your language.
Let's talk about that word refine.
Yeah.
Is it just another word for improve, or is there a specific nuance to it?
It's more specific than improve. To refine something means to make small, precise changes to make it better, purer, or more polished. You refine oil to make it cleaner. You refine a plan to make it more efficient.
So it's about going from good to great, polishing the details.
Exactly. You're not starting from zero. You're taking something that already exists and making it more accurate and elegant. Recording yourself speaking is one of the best ways to find those small details you need to refine.
Ah, the dreaded record yourself advice. I know one source said the host cringed so hard when she first did it. Why is it so uncomfortable but so effective?
It's uncomfortable because there's a huge difference between how we think we sound and how we actually sound. Recording yourself closes that gap. You hear the awkward pauses, the incorrect vowel sounds, the flat intonation. It's painful, but it gives you a precise roadmap of what you need to refine.
It's like a mirror for your voice. Okay, so we know we need active practice, and we know we need transcripts for good shadowing. But you mentioned that for a lot of the best resources, that crucial material it's gated.
That's right. The freemium model is very common. The podcast audio is free, which is great for listening practice. But the really actionable tools, the transcripts, the worksheets, the vocabulary lists, are often gated.
What does gated mean here? It's not a physical gate.
No. In this context, gated means access is restricted. You have to pay or become a member to get through the gate and access the premium content. It's a digital paywall.
So a lot of these great podcasts, they give you the input for free, but they gate the +1 tools that help you actually learn from it.
That's a great way to put it. For example, ESL Pod is a fantastic resource, but the full learning guides with transcripts are gated behind a $29 a month subscription. Luke's English podcast has amazing free content, but the premium worksheets and transcripts are gated behind a monthly fee as well.
So if a learner is on a tight budget, what's their best option? Where can they get high-quality audio and the free transcript they need for shadowing?
The clear winner here, mentioned in multiple sources, is BBC 6-Minute English.
Why is it so good?
A few reasons. First, it's short. 6 minutes is the perfect length for a focused shadowing session. Second, the quality is top-notch. And most importantly, they provide a full, free transcript for every single episode.
So no gated content. That really is a game changer for accessibility.
It is. It gives every learner the tools they need to practice effectively, regardless of their budget.
Now, you mentioned Luke's English podcast focuses on things like collocations. Why is learning collocations so much more important than just learning individual words?
Because language isn't built with single bricks. It's built with chunks of bricks that always go together. Collocations are words that sound natural together to a native speaker.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. We say heavy rain, not strong rain. We make a mistake, not do a mistake. We have fast food, not quick food. Learning these chunks makes your English sound much more natural and fluent.
So when you're shadowing, you should be listening for these word pairs and practicing them as a single unit.
Absolutely. That's how you move from sounding like a textbook to sounding like a real person.
Okay, one more phrase before we move on. If we're talking about group discussions based on podcasts, a really useful phrasal verb is to pitch in.
Yes, great one. To pitch in means to join in and help with something, either an activity or a conversation. It implies teamwork and a shared effort.
So in a classroom, a teacher might say, I want everyone to pitch in with their ideas.
Exactly. Or if your friends are cleaning up after a party, you would pitch in and help them wash the dishes. It's a very collaborative, friendly phrase.
Fantastic. Okay, I feel like we have a complete toolkit now.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our final segment and save our listeners from some common mistakes.
Let's do it. The common mistake segment, where we look at the traps that intermediate learners often fall into.
Mistake number 1. I'm going to set it up. I'm in London for a big job interview. Can I walk into the office and say to the receptionist, "Hi, I'm a bit early. I just wanted to buy a new pair of pants for the meeting so I'd look smart."
Winces.
Oh, please don't say that. No, that is the classic high-stakes vocabulary
Oh,
error.
why? What did I just say? In American English, pants are trousers. But in British English, pants means underwear.
Oh, no, so I just told the receptionist I bought new underwear for the interview.
You did, which is a little too much information. In the UK, you would say you bought a new pair of trousers.
Right.
This is why you have to be so careful with the vocabulary associated with your chosen accent model.
Message received. Okay, mistake number 2. Can I say, I listen to 3 hours of English podcasts every day while I clean my house, so my speaking must be getting better, right?
That is the passive trap. And it's so easy to fall into. While that background listening is great for getting your ear accustomed to the sounds of English, it is not, by itself, an effective strategy for improving your speaking.
Because there's no output.
There's no output, and there's no active focused attention. You have to dedicate at least a small part of that time, even just 10 or 15 minutes, to active techniques like shadowing or summarizing out loud. That's what builds the speaking muscle.
Input alone isn't enough. Got it. Okay, final mistake. Let's say I'm now working in an energetic, fast-paced American office. My boss walks by in the morning and says, "Hey, how are you?" Can I respond with, "Oh, surviving. Could be worse."
You could, but you would probably confuse your boss. While that self-deprecating, understated response is perfectly normal and polite in a British context.
In an American context, it sounds negative.
It can, yeah. It might come across as sarcastic, unenthusiastic, or like you're genuinely having a bad day. The cultural expectation in that American context is a simple, positive, upbeat response.
Like, doing great. Thanks. How about you?
Exactly. It's not about being dishonest. It's about playing by the right cultural rules for that specific interaction. You have to match your response style to the culture you're in.
That's such a crucial, nuanced point. Okay, I think I'm ready for the pop quiz.
All right, let's see how you did. You at home, play along. Question number 1. What is the academic term for the input that is just slightly above a learner's current level, also known as I+1?
That would be comprehensible input from Krashen's input hypothesis.
Perfect. Question 2. What is the essential free resource that BBC 6-Minute English provides that makes shadowing so effective?
That's the transcripts, the tool that is so often gated behind a paywall elsewhere.
You got it. And question 3. If a British person describes their own success in an understated way, are they bragging or are they being modest?
They are definitely being modest. They're downplaying it to be polite.
We've passed with flying colors.
Okay, let's wrap this up. What are the biggest takeaways from today?
I'd say the top 3 concepts are: 1, focus on all 4 pillars of speaking: fluency, accuracy, pronunciation, and vocabulary range. 2, remember the magic formula. You need both comprehensible input and active output. And 3, the shadowing technique is your game-changing tool for solo practice.
And what are the top 5 words for our listeners to take away and start using?
I'd say crucial, fluency, refine, self-deprecating, and collocations.
An excellent list. And now for your micro-challenge at home.
Your challenge today is to find a short audio clip with a transcript. Listen to yourself saying a few sentences. Then listen to the native speaker. Notice one specific difference in pronunciation or rhythm. Your goal isn't to be perfect, just to notice the gap and try to refine your own speech a little bit.
A great practical challenge. And finally, a provocative thought to leave you with.
We talked about the story of Alejandro, a man who could perfectly imitate any accent but couldn't actually speak English. His story is a powerful reminder that pronunciation is just one piece of the puzzle. True fluency isn't about sounding perfectly native. It's about having the confidence to connect, to communicate your ideas and your personality, whatever accent you have. The real goal is connection, not perfection.
I love that. A perfect thought to end on. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Global English Podcast.
And share this with anyone you know who feels stuck between listening and speaking.
I'm Jordan. See you next time.
And I'm Taylor. Bye.